Anybody with friends or family members that have fallen into QAnon conspiracies/communities, what are some crazy things you have heard or experienced from these people? Someone I know, who will remain unnamed, said the whole crisis with that ship that got stuck in the canal, the Ever Given, remember that, well that accident was a plan by the resistance against the deep global government. On the ship was a machine that took 20 years to develop, meant to control the weather and further targeted climate change as a means of geopolitical manipulation and control. The agents successfully destroyed it, an absolute victory I was told. It can't be rebuilt. This was all said to me with a completely straight face, by a person with a graduate-level education in STEM. I honestly had no words, and still don't. I briefly lived with a Q follower. He hated Jews, but what took the cake is he had this theory that Donald Trump was a time traveler because of the way he would handle certain things. He was dead serious. He thought Trump would travel to the future to gain insight to fix present, at the time, problems. My uncle used to be cool. Pretty funny, chill to be around. Anyway, last time I went to visit, he started ranting about how overpaid teachers are. Me, my husband, and my mom, his sister, are all teachers. Then he started going on about how weird furries are and how he read schools in liberal districts are going to accommodate furries by letting them use a litter box instead of bathrooms. We all thought he was joking until we realized he honestly believed schools were going to let kids shit in litter boxes. Mother-in-law went downhill as soon as the vid hit. Refused to leave the house, ordered tons of Trump gold coins and silver and gold bars because the economy was gonna collapse. Believed that the elite are torturing children and drinking their blood to stay young. And many, many other bizarre theories. She wouldn't get the jab. Wouldn't go see the DR when things were bothering her because she didn't want him to force, her interpretation of him putting pressure on her to get it. Wouldn't go get blood drawn because she couldn't handle wearing a mask, claustrophobic/agoraphobic. Anyways, when she started to bleed out of her nether regions and couldn't keep herself from falling out of bed and couldn't get back up, she finally relented and got someone to take her to the clinic. They sent her to the hospital and 2 months later she was gone. She had been suffering from bladder cancer for nearly 2 years and just thought she was having gallbladder issues, super infuriating and frustrating beyond belief because it didn't have to kill her. They could have detected it much sooner and they could have removed her bladder, and she could have lived. My brother-in-law is so down the rabbit hole, Joe Biden is dead and the glitches are his AI messing up. Donald Trump had the source code in Florida and that what they stole from him because he was going to control Joe Biden. The pillow guy is a plant by the liberal overlords to sabotage Donald Trump. The election was stolen by Wi-Fi and 5G hackers. China, liberals and Japan are all working to bring more Asians to America to stop the black and white population. My ex's family all basically fell into various conspiracy theories over COVID. Half of them were hippy-dippy, crystal healing, waiting for alien overlords to reward their behavior type conspiracy theorists. The other half was doomsdayer, QAnon, the government wants to use water to control my brain types. I'd say the weirdest one I heard was about a year ago when they all came to the agreement that COVID was a sticky virus created by Fauci using alien blood, sold to China as a cover-up. The liberals then sabotaged the Chinese government so COVID would be released, all so that the liberal elite could have Donald Trump removed. This was all peppered in with how Hollywood actors stay young by drinking children's blood. I was a bit amused by the whole situation because 1. I had heard all these conspiracy theories individually but not connected into one long drunken rant, and 2. Almost all of these theories revolved around the American government even though nobody present had even been to America. I am beyond glad I don't have to see them again. There was this random customer at my old job rambling to me about there being a tie with black people and Satan. I was just trying to help her find a blanket for her dog's car seat and then she goes, I didn't used to hate black people but. And then talks about the devil and black people for like 30 minutes. My MIL is absolutely convinced there is a video on the dark web of Hillary Clinton, cutting a 10-year-old's face off and wearing it. She also goes on and on about all the people that went to Epstein's place. But if you mention Trump, she gets defensive and goes no he didn't. Show me proof. And when you say okay, show proof, Will Smith went there, she says, oh, it's coming out. Pretty annoying to deal with and has caused my husband and I to distance ourselves. My mom still owes me 50 from a bet. She said Trump would win the 2020 election, then it changed to he'll be instated by the military and generals, then it was he's the true president and moved command center to Mar-a-Lago to combat the evil. I don't think I'll ever get that $50 LOL. I have a dear friend whose mother believes very firmly that there is an opposite Earth named Nibiru that orbits in Earth's exact orbit but always completely across the orbit from us, so always hidden by the sun. Furthermore, she also believes that this counter-Earth's orbit is going to destabilize somehow. There is no explanation given as to why this will happen, or why it's going to happen now, except God is punishing sinners, and that the government is covering this up because it's going to cause earthquakes and volcanoes and tidal forces that will destroy all of California, and only California, because we're liberal sinners. Yes, only California. Yes, even the children and babies. Yes, she's also alarmingly anti-abortion. No, there is no explanation for how every single NASA employee would be forced to hide this information. There is also no explanation for how any other country's space agencies would be forced to hide this information. My mom is like this. When Trump was losing to Biden in the last race, she kept sending me texts with links to conspiracy sites where they were saying that Trump was hiding in a bunker until he was reinstalled as president. She would also send links to sites about Pizzagate and other such nonsense. She literally believed that Obama was the Antichrist. I know a few. Here is what gets me and what is just so disturbing about it. They are no some cracked out crazy person, cause that does exist, but they are everyday people. I could show you pictures of my sister and her husband with their new baby and they look like a happy, albeit conservative, family. Everything they do is normal, but they look at me in disgust and ask why I would vote for a party that drinks the blood of babies and worships Satan. One family member was pleading and crying in hysteria because they were concerned I was being corrupted by the devil. And before I knew it, I would be fooled into sacrificing my children and doomed into an everlasting hellfire. I'm just trying to get healthcare and better social safety nets. Like, we all don't seem to understand the US is clearly going to break apart. Like this is happening either very quickly or very slowly, but it's happening. This shit is driving people and I cannot emphasize more how I'm trying to cherish the best of the times now in abject normalcy before it goes to shit. Cause a lot of people will flat out die for this bullshit and they will be happy to. They are lost and I have no idea how it'll get any better. Masks make you gay. The COVID cure, aka the first stay-at-home orders, were responsible for 90% of the all deaths and were from drugs and domestic abuse. Trump has more power now out of the government than being the president because he's the secret president. My dad started with Fox News when he retired and started claiming facts that we all disproved and pissed him off. But then, he started getting on email groups that would send him the conspiracy of the day and it was just junk past there. He got a Blue Lives Matter flag and wonders why people in the neighborhood don't like him. He constantly insults Biden like somehow Biden controls oil prices in the world or is the one raising the price of Pepsi. Hear about the great lie on occasion. Russia invaded Ukraine because that's where the 9/11 gold is hidden. The COVID vaccine is the mark of the devil talked about in Revelations. The government is quietly killing leaders and replacing them with doubles, which may or may not be robots. For those of you that don't like Nancy Pelosi, you'll be relieved to hear she's been dead for a few years now. It's just a matter of time before the truth comes out. My mother is pretty far gone at this point and uses every opportunity we're in the same space together to preach at me about her beliefs. Shame me for my own medical decisions and generally scream at me about whatever the latest Facebook post that made her pissed off. Near my hometown in Canada they recently opened a cricket factory / farm / whatever you want to call it to raise crickets for pet food, for lizards and such. The local Canon contingent is convinced this is the beginning of Trudeau's master plan to have us all eating crickets by the end of his term. Food as we know it will be a thing of the past and we'll all be eating nothing but crickets. They're sure of it. I've got a coworker who I love to talk to because he's some kind of Q guy, but his goes above and beyond any others I've ever seen. My favorite of his beliefs is that Trump is still president, as in literally, Joe Biden is a puppet and Donald Trump is telling him what to do. Thing is, he's not a fan of all the policies being enacted, so I'm not for sure if he's pro-Trump or not. He does think eventually Trump is going to become president again, so he may consider the policies that he doesn't like some kind of necessary evil for Trump's master plan. My uncle told me that I wouldn't believe the huge number of children that are kidnapped by pedophiles in our town. For reference, this is a town of under 5,000 people in rural America. Everyone knows each other. No children have been taken or gone missing. I asked him how many children he believes are kidnapped in our city each year, and he said he believes at least a dozen. He believes that Donald Trump is somehow involved with uncovering and fighting this child kidnapping ring. He's a mechanical engineer. So not generally a dumb fellow. He should have better logic than to think dozens of kids were kidnapped and sex trafficked from our town park, but when it comes to the Q stuff, logic is totally out the window. I had to start cutting ties with them when they ruined my fiancé's birthday dinner to talk about Trump. This was in October right before the insurrection. I talked them briefly on the phone after January 6th and they were already sympathizing with the rioters. I didn't want to see them get sucked in. But they had always been in the precipice of falling into that sort of cult. They were a Fox News/Bill O'Reilly household for years before Trump. It's traumatizing when you love people but can't reason with them. My cousin believes COVID is not serious and is a bio-weapon created by Macron, Biden and Xi to foment panic. Said panic then allows governments to use martial law to expropriate private property. Can't imagine a likelier cabal. She is college educated and rejects science. She takes vitamin D, zinc and homeopathic meds. She and her immunocompromised son had serious COVID cases. I hope they don't have long COVID. We don't keep contact anymore. I don't recognize her. She went from worrying about Trump and the rise of fascists in Europe to hardcore Q. One of her kids insisted on getting vaccinated. She was distraught. My ex-GFS mom, me and ex are still good friends, got really into conspiracy shit. They couldn't have a new router at their house cause 5G is bad. Completely ignoring the fact that the 5Gs of a Wi-Fi router are completely different than the other cell 5G. Also overlooking the fact that our area already had 5G cell towers, she also spent a lot of money on 4-season survival gear because the world was supposed to end or something. Which was not good for the family because they are both on fixed incomes. Trump is still the president and running the US, but very few people know it, like nobody in Congress or the Senate. People only think Biden is the president, and only listen to them because the DNC stole the election, as to what/how Trump is running while not having his supposed legal authority recognized. They responded with, "It's all behind closed doors," and "the people who really run the country know." I asked who the people who really run the country are and the person started getting pretty mad.
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.